Hello everyone, this is Lucas, and today I'm going to talk about carbon negative sustainability. I'm going to go through the exterior electrical of my bicycle house, and as you can see, it's coming along still. I've had a lot of setbacks, mostly financial. It's really hard to do this because most of my money comes from scavenging, so if I don't scavenge, I don't come up with parts, though. If I don't scavenge, I don't eat at the moment. I'm going to be going back on the CERB here, hopefully, with any luck. I haven't been on it, actually. I've been fixing and selling bikes and all that other stuff for the most part, and flipping stuff on Kijiji and stuff like this to fund myself. I'm all self-funded, so this is something I did all myself, and I want to include that in the sustainability. And the first thing that I want to say about sustainability, and I'm watching all these other tiny houses and how other people are building what they consider to be sustainable, and I'm looking at it and I'm shaking my head and I'm like, well, no, that's not right. And I know it's not right because I've built something contrary to what everybody says is sustainability, and I've not only achieved carbon neutral, I've achieved carbon negative. Okay, and I'm going to tell you how. Okay, if you've been watching my videos, if you know this, about a year ago, I had a truck camper that I gutted and redid over inside myself with things that I'd found, made, whatever, scavenged. And then I had the police impound it all on me, and I lost everything. And I was left on the side of the road at -20 by EPS. This is true. I managed to get back to my shop here, get into my snowsuit, and finish an ice hut that my son and I were building here in Edmonton so I could take him ice fishing. I stayed in it until I could get my car fixed, and then after my conviction and all this stuff of no insurance and the Alberta government losing my tiny house to the impound or wherever it went, pretty sure that was a setup, I decided that I wasn't going to give up. I liked the way I was living in the truck camper. I liked the freedom that it afforded me. I liked being able to move to a new spot every night and calling that my home. And while I did that, I did a lot of environmental cleanup as well. I have another channel that I run on YouTube under the same name, Lucas Cameron, under this one, where I can show the world how screwed up it is in some places and the amount of environmental damage that stupid people do to places. And whenever I went to a place like that in my truck camper, I always did my best to try to clean it up. And so when you're talking about sustainability, and if you're building a tiny house and you're putting it in one spot and you're living there and you're disturbing the environment, that's not sustainable. In the long run, and I guess you could say it's sustainable if it's already land that has been messed with in the beginning. Yeah, okay, that's sustainable. I'll give you that. But putting one on wheels and then dumping gas into a motor to drive it around everywhere, that is not sustainable. And I haven't seen any electric tiny houses out there, or electric campers, or tiny house campers, or whatever you want to call them, out there as of yet, except bicycle campers. And the problem with bicycle campers is that you cannot live full-time in a bicycle camper because there is no shower, cooking facilities, and all this other kind of stuff. And I had to reinvent that stuff all in my truck camper myself when I originally made the truck camper. So when I came up with the idea and I saw the idea of a bicycle camper, and I went, man, I can make that a bicycle house because of everything that my father has taught me building fish huts, everything that I've learned as a power engineer and automations, technician, and all this other kind of stuff. I knew I could do this. Now, I'm a little bit annoyed right now with Nate. They teach sustainability, but I don't think they know what they're talking about. I've got a lot of my schooling from Nate, and to be honest, I really wish I went somewhere else. During my automations time at Nate, well, they're teaching sustainability in other classrooms. I was in the Shell Manufacturing Center in the Robot Lab doing my PLC 1 and 2 course, and this was the first year it was ever ran at Nate. There was a urinal in the Shell Manufacturing Center that ran for the entire length of both those courses, almost 2 years, dumping thousands of dollars down the drain every month. Now, as a ticketing power engineer running a medical facility at the time when I saw that kind of stuff, if you're a building operator and your boss catches you with something like that in your building, you're in a lot of trouble because you're dumping money down the drain, literally. In this case, it's Nate dumping subsidized money down the drain, literally, while students have to pay these exorbitant prices for tuition. So while they dump thousands of money down the drain, students are forced to fork out more, and if students have money, there wouldn't be things like the student food bank to begin with, okay? So it made me mad. I made complaints about it. It was never fixed. Even though that I made that complaint the first class that I was there and the first review that I brought forward about the class, they never fixed it. They just let it run and then demoed the Shell Manufacturing Center, and their excuse was, well, we're going to demo the building anyway, so it doesn't really matter. How is that sustainable? It's not. And this is the mentality of people that you deal with when it comes to sustainable. So now, carbon neutral. Well, carbon neutral means that you don't cause any carbon disruptance in the carbon chain cycle of the planet, meaning you're not burning something or whatever else. You're taking what is there and then using it, and then in turn, you're not producing something that doesn't require carbon to run as well. Okay, so this here, carbon negative, not carbon neutral, and allow me to explain. Okay, everything in this camper, apart from a few lights and a few little plastic parts that I had to buy new, I've only spent $40 so far. Everything is recycled and is reused. And when I say carbon negative, I mean it, because all the stain on the exterior so far and all the polystyrene interior and all this stuff is stuff that people threw out. In the case of the stain, we're talking about oil-based stain that some idiot threw down at the scrapyard. And when I found that oil-based stain, that big bucket of oil-based stain, it was literally leaching into the environment. So by doing that quick little cleanup, utilizing all that foam that Jisk and HomeSense and everybody else threw away for their nice little Christmas furniture, and producing a product that in the end is now carbon negative. Okay, I'm going to show the exterior lights today. This is a little thing. I'm going to show some more stuff on my builds. As you can see now, you're kind of getting the idea surrounding that gypsy symbol at the back with the spare tire. These are these are interior or exterior old exit sign lighting bars. And I pulled them out of old exit signs for buildings. They're LED. And what I'm utilizing is the battery backup circuit. There's two separate circuits. I used an X-Acto knife to pull them apart. I removed the 120 volt circuit and just went with the battery backup 12 volt circuit. I wired them together in parallel, and then the battery and everything like that you saw inside. I'm going to talk about the windows here. This was developed by either Gary Crittenden, Gary Bradamore, or my dad. I'm not really sure. But during the late 80s and early 90s, 2-liter pop bottles, the plastic ones in Canada, were actually a little bit of a novelty. We didn't have them. They were in the States, and a lot of people used to bring the 2-liter pop bottles up here, and they were a real novelty for people when they first came out. And I remember that because, I was a kid back then. But one of my dad's friends had saved up his 2-liter pop bottles that he'd got, and he used them for windows in his ice hut. And what was found out is that if you stagger a layer of 2-liter pop bottles, so I got one here, which is here, and then I half it, and then I half it, and I half it, and I half it, and overlap with half the whole way along, what happens is you create a really small little air pocket that is still breathable. And what that does is it will still maintain your heat in the small space, but will allow the moisture to escape, so that, and especially when in my previous videos, if you watched when I'm using the shelving for it with all the holes and everything else, that this camper actually breathes and condensation isn't an issue. it isn't an issue. I can boil water in here a couple times a day, sleep in here, be in here all day long, and condensation is not an issue due to this. And all it is 2-liter pop bottle plastic. You see I got one cut off here from when I was left over doing the other side. 2-liter pop bottle plastic and some thumbtacks. I'm going to be going over top of it with some trim and everything later, some plastic trim to make it look nicer. I got some old plastic skid trim here. It's just tossed. This is all things that people threw away. The electrical box is right here. This breaker actually came out of my old truck camper. The old truck camper never had a 120 volt hookup. I didn't have it. I turfed it, and instead I used a generator at the time. You're saying, well, no, that's not really environmentally friendly, but it is in a way, because the gas that I used to power the generator I got from recyclables. So I cash in my recyclables and buy gas to run my generator. So in a way it was, but at the end of the day, if I had money in my pocket, then that's the proof that it is in fact sustainable. This one here, I'm actually putting a 120 volt hookup on it because I don't know where this thing's going to go. I can potentially put this thing anywhere, so I don't want to dismiss having a 120 volt hookup on it, especially considering that I'm going to be using some really large lithium ion battery packs. And I got one right here. I got a really big lithium ion battery pack I've been working on here. This is a salvaged pack out of an electric bicycle. This is an electric bicycle battery pack that it just, yeah, it melted the contact leads and all this other kind of stuff. So I brought it back to life, and this is going to be my power source for the camper. It's pretty light. It only weighs about 5 pounds, but I know it's got a lot of juice in it. This probably has about the same amount as your average truck battery. And when I was living in my truck camper on a truck battery, I was able to run my laptop, charge my phones, power bank, and run lights and all that stuff for about 5 days straight. I'm hoping to do the same with this, but we'll see. The front lights, as you can see, they're the same as the interior lights. These are actually rated exterior lights, so I was able to put them on the exterior here as well. And these are going to be my marking lights. Laws required for a bicycle cart is that it has to have some kind of handbrake to lock the tires in place. It has to have a registration the same as a regular bicycle, and that at night you have to have lights on both the front and the back. That's been told to me by the EPS, but EPS is notorious for saying one thing and doing another, so we'll see how that goes. Back to the whole sustainability thing. The most important thing about sustainability, and the most important part about this project to me, is that anybody can do it. Anybody can ride a bike, right? I mean, there may be medical conditions with some people out there who can't ride a bike. For the most part, though, everybody can ride a bike. Not everybody can own a truck. I'm in a situation right now where I can't own a truck anymore, so I can't live the life that I want to. But I didn't give up, and I knew that this was possible just because of all the things that I've been through in my life, all the people that have taught me, all the help that I get from people who believe in me. There's been a lot of people who have helped me and believed in me with this, who at first thought that the idea was totally crazy. And this all started when my ex-girlfriend sent me a picture of a bicycle house that was made in China that looked like a truck camper that was set on a tricycle frame. So it was a tricycle camper, I guess, but it's human powered. And at the end of the day, I don't have to fill up anything. You know, there's going to be some solar panels on the top later, I guess, but I got to figure out a way to carbon negatively acquire solar panels, right? I don't want to, spend a lot of money, create a big carbon mess at some job and drive a truck and then all this stuff to bring my solar panels back here and then think that I've done something positive for the environment, right? The whole point of doing something positive for the environment and carbon neutral and carbon negative is that you got to give up on the gas, man. It's got to go. And I built this with no vehicle in minus temperatures. The frame I actually welded in plus temperatures, but for the most part, this build has been in minus temperatures. And it's been a hindrance because I got to wait till days when it's actually like plus and stuff to do painting and all this stuff. And I have some old recycled epoxy that is yet to go on this, a whole bunch of more painting to do on the outside, because I want people to know when they look at this, I want them to know that this is a house. This isn't, you know, just some box, but it's a house. So if you like these videos, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. If you have achieved carbon negativity, can you put it below? And if you live in a tiny house or any of that stuff, I'd really like to see what you've done.